Everybody, it's Damp. I get this question a lot, and it's what do you think is the best currently? What's the best party in the game, or what's the meta? And the cool thing about Darkest Dungeon is there isn't really one, to be honest. However, there are some combinations that tend to outperform, in my opinion, based off the playstyle I have, which is favoring straight line damage over AoE, favoring damage over stuns, favoring aggressive attacks rather than heals unless you're below 50%. I mean, favoring scouting in some of the longer dungeons especially. So I'm going to give you some generalizations and some advice on some compositions that I think would really help you if you're a newer player. And even if you're advanced, I would say to try some of these out because I feel that they're really some of the most successful. So we'll start on boss fights. So what you have here is currently what I feel is one of the strongest parties that's in existence right now across all the boss fights. But what I would highly recommend is these three, and then you interchange the second slot. So we're recommending Hellion, Arbalist, and Occultist. The Occultist is going to favor speed to mark and hopefully get the first turn, and then allowing you to have the Arbalist really do the mainstay of damage. Now, hopefully they've been buffed with Sharpened Spear, and then also with what you look at on the Arbalist would be the Restraint Crossbow. So when the boss does AoE damage, you're going to swap the Occultist for a Vestal. And then another good option could be if the boss is Prot, you'd throw in a Houndmaster. A lot of people don't realize that when you have a Houndmaster, their mark, and I'll go back here and show you, their mark actually reduces Prot of a mob. So that's a big advantage you can have on some boss fights too. Now in this composition, on most of the boss fights, you don't need to know where the boss is, because when you go out, you're going to have a general idea that the boss is the farthest away from where you start, so it doesn't benefit you as much to run a Grave Robber. But some other options that would be good would be running a Leper or running a Crusader. Either of those are good fill-ins because you really just want to do as much damage as possible early on in the fight. You're primarily going to be targeting the boss on most of the fights, not all of them, but you're going to try and DPS down the boss and then worry about the ads in most of the fights. So in my opinion, that's one of the best ways to handle the boss fights. Abomination's good because of the rake. It can single-handedly take care of the mobs in front. That's one of the reasons why I recommend him, but he also does a ton of damage if you look at his rage ability, and even slam is pretty good, and it's a good debuff to use against bosses if you can get him to get debuffs. As far as when it comes to searching rooms, so you'll see that the Grave Robber is really going to help you in the ones where you need to focus on completing 100% of the fights or searching rooms for, like, if you have the ones where you're looking for the collection where you gather the relics or activate the wards. These are all ones that the Grave Robber helps a lot because they can scout, and when they can scout, that allows you to eliminate a lot of the hallways, thus reducing stress, thus reducing damage, thus reducing the need to cross traps when it comes to it. And they also can reduce traps or eliminate them completely for you. So that's another thing that would help you. But again, same thing. You're looking at Hellion, you will look at Arbalist, and you would look at the Occultist, in my opinion, simply because of the mark, are really the best for that composition if you're going to search the rooms or do battles. Now, when it comes to getting through 90% of the rooms, those type of quests, the ones right here, now when it comes to those types of quests, what I'd recommend is you swap out the Grave Robber because you don't need her as much to find things. Although she is still helpful, you don't need her as much to find things. Instead, who you take would be probably the Abomination in that point, or the Crusader if you're in the ruins, because you have to go to almost every room anyways. In the shorts you can skip one, in the mediums you can skip usually one or two depending on how big it is, and then in the large you can skip two. The Occultist pool is also really helpful in a lot of those rooms, to clear corpses and help reduce stress, because a lot of the backlying mobs and monsters in those fights you can pull to the forward and eliminate, and then they won't at least be able, they might be able to stab and do damage, but they won't be able to do a lot of their stress attacks. So that's just another tip. Why do I not recommend the Vestal? I get that question a lot. I do recommend the Vestal, especially with the Arbalist. The Vestal plays very well. You can have the Arbalist really heal your tank, especially with the Man-at-Arms. Put that on the Man-at-Arms, have the Man-at-Arms mark himself, and then heal with the Vestal. That increases the consistency of her heals. It's very powerful. Her Judgment is one of the best in the game, but primarily because I'm favoring the Arbalist because of all the damage that she does. I'm bringing the Occultist with some speed to mark for me. But if you don't have the Cleansing Crystal, there's no reason to take an Occultist. It's not necessarily a suicide mission, but it'll add a lot more stress, have you use up a lot more Band-Aids than you have to. So don't do that. If you have the Vestal, she's a great replacement for the Occultist. You just can't mark. So in that case, you'd probably remove the Arbalist, and you'd probably favor instead shifting this back and looking at bringing a Leper, and then probably bringing the Grave Robber in slot 3 or bringing the Jester. Those would all be good options. Obviously, you could still bring the Abomination in that slot. That's a good one. But those are just some ideas, guys. I think a lot of people get caught up in what's the best, and it's really what benefits your playstyle most. I rarely use stun. I rarely use damage over time and blight because of the resistance possibility. It's harder to resist damage unless the character has prot or they're going to dodge, and you can offset that with your accuracy. So in my mind, it's a little more controllable with this party. These parties also that I suggested to you, they don't really worry about corpses because they're able to hit, this one, back line, second and third line, front line. Okay, so that's covered. You look at the Abomination, first 3 lines, first 2 lines AoE, and then you look at if we would run the Arbalist with it, you'd be able to hit the back 3 lines, and then you could still blind fire if you had to. But towards the end of the fight, you can use her bandage and then allow the Occultist to do the back 2 lines on his first attack if you don't want to mark, or use the first 3 lines with Sacrificial Stab, which is really still pretty powerful. So that's kind of the explanation of what I feel is best. Drop some in the comments below on what you guys feel is best, and I can even test them out on stream for you if you'd like, or give you a reason on why I don't do that or why I do. So again, thank you for watching. Thanks for all the support. This will probably be my last DD video until the launch, when I'll walk you through all the boss fights again based off all the changes, and do some more updates based off the hot fixes. So thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate all the support. See ya.